Welcome back, everyone. Today we have a very special guest joining us. We have JB Gallegos, who is one of the stars in the Texas Rhapsody film. One of the things that makes the film so unique is the people behind it. It's a movie, but it is also a story built around real places and real experiences. Real people who bring a level of honesty to the screen that you do not always see in the film. JB is part of that authenticity. His role as president and his connection to Texas all help bring the story to life in a way that feels grounded, personal, and true to the heart of the film. That's what we believe makes the movie so unique and sends a very strong message. And that is the people, the places, and again, the experiences that they portray in the film. And so, JB, thank you so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate your time.
Certainly great to be with you, Paul.
Good, good. So one of the things that we want to talk just a little bit about is how you got involved in the project. It's funny how connections sometimes get us involved in some really neat projects like that. So I was going to see if you just tell us a little bit about how you first got involved with Texas Rhapsody.
Absolutely. I received a call from Laura McKenzie, who is also in the film. And she said, I've got a little part for you. I need you to drive a pickup in this film that we're doing. And I said, oh, sure, that would be fine. Once I arrived on set, apparently the fellow that was supposed to play my character, Beto, had to back out of the role. And she says, well, I've got a few lines here for you. Can you say these? Obviously, it just kept snowballing and snowballing until I was fully integrated into the film. But it was all because of Laura McKenzie. And of course, you know, Sam being a former resident of Fort Stockton, was raised here, was very well acquainted with my family, knew me, and so that's how I got involved initially.
Awesome. That's great. So what was your reaction when you heard about the film or maybe a little bit about, the story and what were your first thoughts?
Well, actually, just reading the script itself, I thought, wow, this is a powerful piece that really needs to be told as far as the story is concerned. So I was really excited about it. But as I said, I was not prepared at all for what was going to take place during filming and the production of the film itself. It was a lot of work, a lot of fun because of the people involved, especially the crew. And I was very much acquainted with most of the actors from the Fort Stockton area, of course. But I really was looking forward to it after I read the script.
Great. That's great. So tell me a little bit about your background and maybe any of your experience of acting or performing or being on a set.
Well, I was born and raised in Fort Stockton. I left after graduation at 18, and I was actually gone for 40 years. I've retired and come back to Fort Stockton and taken over the family business, which is in its 79th year this year,
Wow.
Paul.
That's
I'm sure you
wonderful.
remember it growing up in Fort Stockton.
Yep, I
But
sure do.
79 years, I don't think I'll make it to the full 80, but we're kind of segueing out of there. But it was, as far as my background, I did go off to school. I did receive my bachelor's in theater and technical theater, actually, but acting was part of it as well. You had to be well rounded in all fields. So, and then I went off to New York. I was part of a internship program at the Juilliard School for a year, after which I actually was asked to join the staff, and I left the theater and went into human resources at that time.
Right. So you're probably one of the only folks in this film that probably had that level of experience to say Juilliard in any way. That's a very prestigious thing to be a part of. And of course we're very proud of you in Fort Stockton having that background. And of course, like you said, you did other things and were gone for quite a while. And I know the community's really happy for you to be back. So that's an awesome story in itself.
And I'm glad to be back. Alice Dirksen, who is the grande dame of the theater here in Fort Stockton Community Theater, got me involved again when I came back and says, "You've got to take over the technical aspect of this space," which I have, and I thoroughly enjoy. Little did I know that years later I'd be back to the theater and I'd have a playground to play in right across the street
Yeah.
from where I live.
That is a beautiful story, and of course that talks to my growing up in Fort Stockton. But tell us a little bit about your time growing up, as you just mentioned, and growing up in Fort Stockton and growing up in Texas, and of course also having lived in other places. I know you've lived in New York, San Francisco, and have seen a lot. How was your time growing up in Fort Stockton?
Well, something that comes to mind because we had a family owned business all my life was work ethics. You were there whether you wanted to or not. You had a job you couldn't be fired from, and I guarantee you, I tried. I tried very desperately to be fired from that job, but, I always came back and I had a worse job the next time I came back. So, with that said, it really instilled in me a work ethic that to this day stays with me, and that every project that I've undertaken, every job assignment that I've undertaken, I do it to the best of my ability, and there's no stopping until the work is actually completed.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful that's a hopefully a testament to our little community there and a lot of the people that do make up that community. So, getting back to the film, as far as the movie, of course, we don't wanna give away the entire movie, but as far as the message that you got out of the movie, what did it mean to you personally?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was in the staffing industry and in North Carolina at that time, and I was there for about 10 years working for a staffing agency. And we employed quite a few Hispanics, and this was before 9/11. We employed quite a few Hispanics in the CD manufacturing facility. And I put 1,000 people a day through that facility. It was in 3 shifts. And the stories that I would hear from these people that were coming in from Mexico, South Central and South America were just heartbreaking as far as coming in over the border. Yes, sometimes it was difficult circumstances, but immigration is a very difficult subject nowadays, especially for us living in Texas. And it's something that needs to be addressed. And hopefully our elected officials, and I emphasize elected, they work for us, will come up with a solution with Mexico as far as people coming in to the United States to work.
Excellent, excellent. We appreciate that point of view and your experience and background, especially working in the human resources world. That definitely definitely there's a connection there, if you will. So, what about kind of your community involvement? You know, what you experience there in your community, and maybe even when it comes to faith and family, and kind of tying that to the movie. How does that resonate? How did that resonate with you when you were making the film and went through this experience.
Well, I'll tell you what, Paul, you grew up in this community, and something that we always heard growing up, well, there's nothing to do in Fort Stockton. Well, I guarantee you, there is so much to do. I was back for a couple of years before I left for an assignment that I took in Tennessee, and I was on 6 different boards. I was actively involved in the theater at that time. Not in the present building, which was just recently built. But again, there is always something to do in this community. And the support that I've received coming back to Fort Stockton, and thank you very much for coming back. It's been a wonderful thing to have you here. Really resonated with me in wanting to give back to my community, which I do tenfold. And I really enjoy that. As far as the film itself, I mean, like I said, it is something that really resonates with me and with many people. And some people that were involved in the project really had a change of heart as far as the issues that we dealt with in the movie.
Right,
So
right.
I thank Sam for his insight and his ability to write a script that is so heartfelt and so timely, so definitely timely.
Right, right, that's wonderful. And again, not getting too deep into the movie, into the scenes, but you had some very powerful scenes, if you will, some very impactful scenes in the movie, and I encourage people to obviously to watch the movie. But I will say some of the parts that you had in the movie were very powerful. I will say in terms of my reaction and the message that I took away. What is something that you had that you could walk away from that really stayed with you in the movie? Is there a particular part? Is there a particular memory that you have that really has really stayed with you?
There was one scene in particular when I was driving Harvey and his family, and it was like a cliffhanger. No one knew exactly where that was going. And like you said, not to give away too much of the film, but I'll give you a little bit of background there. There was 9 of us in that vehicle, not only Harvey and his family, there was 4, myself that was driving, the cameraman that was right adjacent to me, so, with the camera right in my face,
Yeah.
and Taylor was in that vehicle, and then the 2 sound technicians in the very back. So that was quite an ordeal, but that particular scene was so powerful because you didn't know what direction the film was gonna take at that point, and there wasn't a dry eye in that vehicle when that
Wow.
scene played out. And it's one of the
That's some
one of the trailers that's been shown over and over again when Texas Rhapsody first came out. So that scene has really resonated with me and certainly stayed with me the entire time.
Wonderful. That is a kinda gave me a little chill hearing that, so that's we don't see that. So when we actually do watch the film, what was it like for you watching the finished product? Actually sitting in a theater with a bunch of people, especially what you just described. What did it feel like watching it?
Well, there's nothing like watching yourself on a 20-foot film. And by the way, when we went to Austin for the premiere, because of the weather, it was canceled and we weren't gonna be able to see it. And we've seen the trailers, but that has nothing to do with the full impact that the entire film would give you. And we were finally Sam was able to finally secure a space at a hotel, and it was a much smaller screen, obviously, but nevertheless, what a powerful evening that was for everybody. Very emotional because it was on, off, on, off. We didn't know it was gonna happen, and I had several family members that have traveled there with me, so I felt responsible for them, and we were all in that hotel and able to see it, and it brought tears to my eyes simply
Wow.
because it was hard work. Yes, it was hard work putting together, and I was involved in 2, 3 days of filming. That was it. I can't imagine Taylor and his entire crew traveling Florida and Fort Stockton and Big Spring and doing that whole route just to film every one of those scenes. It was an incredible experience again.
Wonderful. That is wonderful. So what do you hope people take away from the film?
Paul, it's again a very timely issue that we're dealing with here in the United States, especially with what's happening, and it definitely will make people think differently about immigration and those coming across to the United States for a better life. And there are many issues that are involved there, but still, again, our elected officials have to work on this and find a resolution.
Right, right. So JB, I want to thank you again for taking the time to talk with us and share your experience, bringing that personal touch and really getting to know the people as the movie, are real people that are in the movie. And the personal effect that brings out in the film, especially what's at the heart of what's going on that we see every day, is just really special. And we really appreciate you really giving us your insight and your perspective from a personal perspective. And again, very happy, very proud of our hometown, and very proud of Texas. And we just want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely, Paul. And it was, again, I wanted to tell you that it was wonderful meeting you in Fort Worth. I had no idea. Who would have known that out of all the people from Fort Stockton, and I knew, of course, your father, that
Yeah,
I would meet you. And you came up to me and
yeah,
said, well, do you know who I am? And that's always a cliffhanger there and onto
yes,
itself.
yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry, I don't. But
Wonderful.
thank you
And
very
and
much.
and
That
I've
was a
known your
wonderful,
family. Yes, yes. And I've known your family. I grew up with your brothers, and it was
my
it's been
apologies on that
wonderful
one.
connecting. Yeah, it's been wonderful connecting with you. So, Texas Rhapsody is available now on Prime Video. We'd love for you to watch the film, share it with someone you may connect with its message, and hopefully some of the things that JB shared with us will have an effect on, your perspective on the situation, and also the message that Sam Feaster, who's the mastermind behind the film. And we really appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time.